Putting your future in the palm of your hands, this is your look at the new NECA Toys Back to the Future Time Machine 1/32nd scale RC replica. Marty McFly and Doc Brown experience the adventure of a lifetime in an unlikely time machine as they travel to the past, the present, and the future, setting off a time-shattering chain reaction that disrupts the time-space continuum. Before we get a closer look at the RC Delorean, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how long it actually is. Now, it stands to reason, obviously, that it's going to be a lot smaller than the previously looked at die-cast Delorean, but just by how much? Don't worry, we'll do comparisons in a second. Before we do that, though, I want to let you guys know that bumper to bumper, the RC Delorean is 4.1 inches in length. And switching that to centimeters, then you're looking at the Delorean being 10.6, a little over 10.5 centimeters in length. And like I said, it stands to reason it's going to be a lot smaller than the die-cast Delorean, so we'll just move this one a little bit further forward, and we'll bring in, there we go, the die-cast Delorean we just recently had a look at. We'll just bring that back, give you an idea how much they differ from one another. Is not only the color quite a bit different, a jump in color, but also you'll see that the RC Delorean is about half the length of the die-cast release. Now, obviously, the RC is going to have a few extra bells and whistles going for it, namely the fact that it's going to have remote control, but this gives you an idea of how one stacks up with the other. By the way, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys who provided the sample of the RC replica of Doc Brown's time machine that we're having a look at in this review. Here are the contents, by the way, that come included with it, and we'll kind of go through each individual thing so you guys get a good idea of what you're going to be getting if you want to pick this one up for yourself. Starting first with a manual. A pretty simple to read manual. Don't worry, it's not overly involved, but it does tell you how to pair the remote control to the Delorean. Actually, it just only involves you turning on both devices, and it pairs by itself. On the inside, it shows you how to change out the batteries, which we'll be looking at in a second. It talks about the steering trim, which I'll also mention that as well, and a few other things to note is also. On the back, it just tells you it needs 3 AAA batteries, and just in case you are curious, no, the AAA batteries are not included when you pick up this for yourself. Why don't we actually, on the topic of AAA batteries, have a look at the remote control. The remote control is pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use also in hand. It's just big enough that I don't feel it's too awkward to hold into my hand. And it's a little bit longer, granted. If it was just maybe 2/3, even 2/3 the length, I think it would fit a little bit more comfortable in the hand. But it's still enough that I can kind of get good, solid controls going for it. The individual joysticks work. This one is a little on the tighter side for the steering back and forth, but the forward and back is just the right tension that I don't find it's too stubborn when I'm wanting to move it back and forth. But we want to flip this around. Just before we do that, I want to show you the Back to the Future logo down below. But flip it around to the back, you have yourself a battery compartment. I feel only in the last few years, safety seems to be an issue when it comes to battery removal, because I've noticed a lot of times these battery covers are always screwed in place. There's no way to open this up until you take that screw out. So I'm just going to quickly take my screwdriver here. No, it does not have a name. If anybody wants to take the time and name my screwdriver, you can go ahead and do that. But all you have to do is just unscrew, obviously, that single screw, and make sure you don't lose it. Just put it to the side. Now, really, this cover doesn't fall off anyways, so even if you wanted, like myself, I'm probably going to do this, take the screw out completely and just leave it off. I mean, the cover still stays in place. It's tight enough that if you bang it, it's not going to be falling off or anything like that. And you'll also see when you slide off the cover, there is a little bit of a required force to get that off. It only goes down to so much of a point, and then you have to kind of lift it up. But if you look at it on the top, this is where the screw feeds through. It feeds through the top hole, and it feeds through this hole that's tucked underneath. When you put it back down, you actually have to put it in on an angle. Drop it down like that, and then go ahead and push it back into place. If that makes any sense. Just push it up like this, then lift up the cover, and inside I've already got ahead and stocked in 3 brand new AAA Energizer batteries, and they're good and on the ready. Go ahead and just put this cover back into place. And again, I don't think I'm going to go ahead and put that screw back in there because I just find it's more obnoxious than anything else. I get the idea that, of course, safety has to be the primary focus, but I also want to be able to get these batteries out whenever I need them. And I don't want to have to find and locate a screwdriver. Take the time to take that screw off before I can even get to the batteries. Also to come included, you get yourself a charging cable. Now, I've already taken time and charged this up. As you can see, the one end of it, this will be the part that's going to go into the actual car. And I'll show you where it goes in a second. The other end of it is your traditional USB cable. The only downside to it is this works best, obviously, plugging this into a USB-enabled device, like a laptop or a hub, for example. You plug that in, and obviously you're going to be able to charge it. Direct plugging this into the wall, unless you already have one of those outlets that have the built-in USB ports, you're still going to have to come across a cable, like an actual plug. This will plug into the cable prong, and then that's going to fit into the wall. I have myself surge protectors located all around the house that have not only the outlets, but also have USB ports. So I'm not going to be too disappointed by it, but you will want to find yourself a prong plug that this could fit into if you are somebody that just plugs into a regular wall outlet. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and take the car. Don't worry, we'll get some closer looks at the car in a second. If you flip it upside down, you have your on and off switch. Next to that, just adjacent to that, there's a little hole there that you're going to go ahead and take the plug, and that's going to fit into place like so. And then you're going to take this end and plug it into all those places that I've already mentioned. There is a little light that lights up right here, and when it's fully lit and green, then you're good to go. Go ahead and unplug this. I've already taken the time, and like I said, I've already plugged and charged everything. To turn this on, all you're going to do is hit on, and then from there, you're going to go ahead to the remote control, and you're going to hit that on as well. You may see initially flashing of red lights, but then you'll get a nice steady light. If you put it down, it's a traditional, of course, remote control. So you can move it forward, you can move it back, and you can also steer it as well. Now, I'm obviously not going to go too far to the extent that it's going to go right off my table onto the floor, and I definitely don't want that to happen. The one thing it also does have also is if you look at the bottom here, I'm not really sure why specifically this even had to be here in the first place. The idea that if the tires aren't properly lined, there's a little dial on the bottom here that you can toggle between a full right, or you can also toggle to a full left. I suppose it also serves a good purpose if you want to just drive the car straight. If you have the wheels tilted to the side, it's obviously just going to keep rotating in circles. I mean, personally, for me, I would have just had this feature removed altogether, because if you get it out of the packaging and you don't realize that this has been switched too far one way, you're going to be confused as to why the car isn't going a straight line. And if it's not going a straight line, definitely double check the bottom of the undercarriage here and just see where this dial is set. It obviously is going to want to be set right in the middle, and it's even difficult to kind of get your finger in there. Just move it back and forth. You'll be toggling back and forth a couple of times. Just very, very carefully nudge it a little bit until you get it right dead center. And even there, it's not even dead center. Just, again, toggle it back and forth. It really is a lot easier if you have yourself like a little small flat-headed screwdriver to get that dead center, because I find this little dial switch here is really super tight. And when you start moving it, before you know it, you're going to be moving it off the center point, and your car's going to get a little wonky when you're moving it around. And because I really spent so much time talking about the die-cast Delorean in its own standalone review, I didn't want to bring it in for the entire majority of this video. Instead, I really wanted to sing the praises of the RC version Delorean, which again, I feel looks much closer to its movie counterparts. The biggest one really being obviously the color, the aluminum of the body in the movie. This looks much closer to being this. And I don't know if it was just due to cost and it was just a lot easier to paint the Delorean the color that they ended up going with, but this is definitely much closer to the way it should have looked from day one. Obviously, the gull wing doors aren't something that's going to open up on this, being that this is all just a hollow chassis, and inside will be all the working components for it to actually move around via the remote control. But still, despite that, there are a lot more accuracies, I feel, to the smaller version Delorean. Perhaps maybe the back exhaust ports could be maybe a little bit darker instead of the silver that they went with. But really, like the rest of the body and the rest of the coloring is a lot closer to the way it should look or should have looked with the die-cast release. The tires, in case you're curious, do feel like they're rubber. Now, that could easily also just be a softer plastic. But even like the tires themselves also look a little bit more movie accurate. I mean, I would even just display this on the shelf. Yes, there's always the benefit of using the remote control and being able to move this around, which I showed you partially because everybody knows how remote control works. Forward, back, and be able to turn and go backwards and stuff like that. But really, like, I feel the benefits of this particular release is that you also just get yourself a nice looking DeLorean when it's all said and done as well. The wires there on the side painted in red with black as well. Of course, the sides done in green, and of course the top areas all painted very nicely. Even the port where you actually put in the plutonium right in there as well. One good thing is at least the out-of-time license plate is a little bit more aligned on this one. It was one of the issues I really had with the die-cast was my license plate was way off. Here I think I feel like I could still straighten it a bit, but it's a little bit more, it's better lined up, I feel, on the back of it. Of course, you got your tail lights. It is a somewhat free-moving vehicle. I mean, the back tires are the things that are really going to be the motorized aspect of it. The front tires freely move on their own. But again, I just really like the fact it's closer to its movie counterpart. The way that really the die-cast release should have been right from day one. It doesn't have gull wing doors, no, that open. No, is not big enough to house any of the Back to the Future figures. But at the end of the day, what we really end up just getting is a die-cast, is a RC car that allows you to be able to move it. And like I said, you can move this around, you can drive this around, probably not best suited in a studio, but take this bad boy outside, and while you may not be able to go up to 88 miles per hour, you may still go fast enough that you're going to get a lot of heads turning when you bring out your little RC DeLorean that you've got from NECA Toys. I still can't pinpoint the reasoning why the die-cast DeLorean didn't have the movie-accurate colors, and yet the 1/32nd scale RC replica DeLorean has movie-accurate colors. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that the die-cast DeLorean was die-cast, and maybe it was just going to be more expensive to apply that aluminum finish to it. But I mean, for the fact that we are getting an more accurate-looking DeLorean with a smaller scale, I feel like they really could have done that same treatment to the die-cast release as well. That was one of the stumbling blocks I think a lot of people sat on getting this for themselves, that die-cast release, simply just because it wasn't movie-accurate colors. And the one thing that we really wanted was a DeLorean that fit properly with those Back to the Future figures that we liked so much. And unfortunately, the die-cast couldn't do that either. Now, granted, yes, the 1/32nd scale, you're not going to be able to put Back to the Future figures inside. If anything, you could probably put Marty McFly on top of it, and he could skateboard his way around until he eventually falls off. But at least, to its credit, like I said, it's got a better movie-accurate color scheme to it. Even if you don't decide you want to use it as an RC car, which I really think if you're not using it for an RC car, you're missing an opportunity to have some real fun with it. But even if you just put it on a shelf, it looks really good as a DeLorean. Smaller, yes. Lighter, yes. But much more movie-accurate than the die-cast release that we gotten before. Let me know down below in the comment section whether you picked this one up for yourself or what you guys think of the 1/32nd scale RC replica time machine from the folks over at NECA Toys. Speaking of NECA Toys, I'd like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at NECA that provided the sample that we had a look at of the time machine 1/32nd scale RC replica. If you are new to the channel and liking the content you're seeing, consider the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below. And of course, as always, make sure you hit that bell notification. It's the way of telling YouTube that yes, you like the content you're seeing and you want to get those reminders of every single time a new video goes online. Also, I can throw out that friendly reminder as well that Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when you'll find new videos popping up on this channel. There's going to be lots of new NECA reviews lined up and coming your way, so as always, keep your peepers peeled for that. And thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.